What's up, YouTube perverts? Welcome back to another episode of AM Training. It is week six of my 6-week program that I'm going to run 3 times right before my meet on January. So this is my first block that I just completed. As you can see, this video is about me maxing out. So I pretty much did a mock meet where I didn't do as well as I thought or wanted to. For my squat, I ended up getting my second attempt of 535. I was really hoping for a 555, which if you follow me throughout this whole series, you can see that I was on my way to get that 555 squat, especially since I programmed myself kind of like the week of pretty much the week of my mock meet. I'll do my openers, but I'll do it for like triples, at least for the squat. So I did a 505 earlier this week, and I did it for a triple, which pretty much leads you into, I mean, for the past 18 weeks that I did program myself, every time I did hit a PR in the triple, I would get that PR in my max attempt. So for a 505 hitting it for a triple, I should have had the numbers of 555, but sometimes it doesn't always work out that way, as you can see. What I think happened is when I program myself with this particular block, especially including reps, I probably kind of overreached a little bit too soon. I tend to like overreaching, like building up all that volume and intensity, and you can start to see, you could probably see my performance do really well in like week 4 and week 5, and I start to like really kill it in the gym. But when it comes down to, it doesn't matter, because when it comes down to the platform or your mock meet, I just didn't execute well. And so the thing is, what happens is that if you want to look at periodization, there are 2 ways to periodize this. And you're looking at the 1-factor model versus a 2-factor model, where 1-factor model, according to Vladimir Zazorsky, basically the science and practice of strength training. I'll put a picture of the awesome book that you should be reading right here next to me, either here or here. According to that book, you can look at the 1-factor model, which tends to be where people talk about supercompensation, where it's more of a time-based kind of way you periodize, where if you have homeostasis, where you just are regularly in strength and then you kick your ass in the gym, you actually get weaker. So then by the time you squat again for next 2-3 days, your supercompensation goes up, you should be stronger, and then you hit that mark right higher, and then that's basically where you kind of do the whole thing, rinse and repeat, where if you hit that particular day while you're super compensated, you have good performance, then your performance goes down because you're tired, and I shouldn't say fatigue, because that's the 2-factor model, but your performance goes down, and then you super compensate again. That is the whole idea with the 1-factor model. 2-factor model, you can think of the graph as a fitness versus fatigue model, where fitness is basically the skill you're getting when you squat, so that's going to go up every time you squat, but also the fatigue is also going to go up, but in this case down, because you're looking at fitness versus fatigue and your performance. So if your fitness goes up, then your performance could go up, but also the determining confounding variable is your fatigue. So all that is just kind of fancy periodization talk for, and it's nuances, right? You're kind of looking at this as like, it's pretty much the same thing, but it depends on how you program. So the way that I program tends to be more of a 2-factor model, just because when you're looking at when I'm looking at my program, in weeks 4 and 5, I killed it. I felt like everything was light. I was like really kicking ass, and I feel like that's because I kind of peaked early, or at least I overreached a little bit early. So you can look at them hand in hand, where overreaching, you'll have that peak performance right afterwards. At least that's how I look at it. So again, with the heavy reps that I've just pretty much put throughout this whole 6-week cycle, I think that's what got me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak it for the next cycle, where I'm only going to introduce reps in the week 4 and 5, and I'll probably take it a little bit easier, because I am getting a little bit aggravating my hip pain. If you've been following me, you'll know that I have kind of greater trochanter pain. I have it on both sides of my hips, so I was feeling pretty good, but once I start pushing up that intensity, I do start to feel it. So I might do, well, whatever I'm gonna do for next cycle, that is gonna be my practice cycle right before my meet. So they're both have to be the same thing, which is gonna be a little risky because I'm going into, I'll probably do high bar to give my what I like to do is give variations where it gives me a little bit of a break, but still you're still having that stimulus high. So for me, I'm still gonna get my quads strong. It's also gonna help kind of groove me better because I do notice in my back off sets, I tend to have a little bit of a stripper squat where my hips rise faster than my shoulders. So I will, with the high bar, that kind of prevents you to do it. So I could either pick front squats or high bar. Front squats, they're awesome, but I feel like the carryover isn't too great for me, especially kind of irritates my knees. I shouldn't think that that's kind of noceboing myself into thinking that front squats are bad for my knees. That's a psychosocial factor where I look at front squats and I feel my knees, but I shouldn't do that. But let's give it reality. The reality is that they kind of do irritate my knees. So with that being said, high bar is going to be good for me because what happens is that if I do that stripper squat where my hips rise faster, that moment arm between my hip and my shoulder, it's going to increase in that squat and I'm going to feel it. I'm going to misgroove the shit out of it. So if I don't hold that good position, then it's almost like a self-correcting exercise, which I like to give, especially me being an online coach. I tend to give my clients things that it's like idiot proof. No offense to any of my clients, but it's like if they do front squats and they kind of have their hips rise up too fast, they're gonna freaking dump the bar. And so that's one of those correcting exercises that I like. Another self-correcting one would be like a gentle touch and go deadlift. The reason for that is because if you're up and you lock out, most likely you're gonna keep that tension as you go down and softly touch the floor. Now I know it's not specific to a deadlift because a deadlift literally has a dead stop, like the name in it actually says dead stop kind of thing, and then you lift. So it's going straight from concentric rather than having that stretch reflex. Anyways, I kind of went off on a tangent, but with that, I'm going to say that, my bench press. So my bench press, I went up to 275. That was my second attempt, and my hips raised off of the bench, so I didn't count it. I went ahead and retook it because that's what usually I'll have my clients do at a meet, is if they miss a lift for any reason, go ahead and retake it, even though if it was a stupid technical error where they miss a command or something like that. So I went ahead and did that. My arm is definitely, I got evaluated by my professor, by the way. He was a little stumped because usually when I have like a C7 problem, you're gonna have not only tricep weakness but extensor weakness and pec weakness because that is all of those muscles kind of innervate from that nerve root of C7. But he was basically, long story short, I'll save you the details. He was a little confused on why I had kind of this injury for my radial nerve, but he said just give it time, which I hate that answer. He knew I hated that answer, but what he is trying to do, what he asked or what he recommended was that I do a BFR, blood flow restriction, which is funny because he's actually my professor that I am doing the study for, blood flow restriction. That's actually my doctorate of physical therapy kind of thesis, if you will, is that we're conducting the study of blood flow restriction. So if it's anyone that's going to be recommending it, it's going to be him. And so I'm kind of excited to do it. I just did it today, and it was pretty cool because usually I can't feel the long head of my tricep during a workout. Or even just flexing it, it's really difficult. So with the BFR, I felt like I was able to actually recruit it. So that's kind of good news. I'll keep going with it because next week I have douchebag deload week. It's something I like to do right after I max out, just kind of have fun, get a mental break from just having the big three all the time. And deadlifts. So another thing that I'm going to change for my next program is because I didn't deadlift as heavy as I thought I would. 635 is my max. I went ahead and did a 605 for my last attempt. It's because I haven't been hitting the intensity high. I usually kind of hit high reps for my deadlift, and that just has good carryover for me. It seems like this cycle I didn't really get a really good carryover, so I'm really going to increase the intensity for that and see how that goes. So yeah, usually I'll have like my heavy deadlift days. Those are days where I AMRAP, and I tend to have 15 reps or so for the AMRAP. With like 500, so you know that I'm not programming as heavy as I should, or at least what conventional programming tends to do, especially for deadlifts. But again, like I said, I just look at the patterns and trends, and I tend to do really well with high rep deadlifts. But I think for this particular cycle, I just didn't program heavy enough. I think I put my training max as like 605 or 615 or something like that. So I know I have more to give when it comes to intensity. I just probably have to keep pulling a little bit more heavy every time. So that is it. Hopefully you got something to take away from that. I was kind of all over the place with programming and self-correcting exercises. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit more into detail, but yeah, maybe I'll talk about that in my douchebag deload week. But other than that, stay tuned. Let me know if you have any questions down below, or you want me to go over anything that first of all, if you if you want me to answer anything, I appreciate you thinking that I have the expertise to answer that. So I do appreciate any questions that you do have below. But yeah, train hard, train smart.